if people are actually willing to call a spade a spade.
Senator Britt.
Thank you, and I really appreciate Senator Cornyn, Senator Schmidt calling this hearing. This is incredibly important. I mean, you look at what the administration did, you look at what the Democratic Party did, you look at what the legacy media did. It is absolutely inexcusable. It is not only dangerous, it's disgusting. And the American people deserve better. And the fact that we have none of my Democratic colleagues over here, that this entire dais is empty, that what they allowed to happen, that they are not interested in correcting it for the future is absolutely mind-blowing. And so when we're looking at what Joe Biden did while he was in office, you have a disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. I mean, leaving equipment, leaving allies, changing the way the world viewed us. You look at an emboldened Russia, Iran. You look at what happened, obviously, with China and those conversations with Joe Biden. You look at millions flooding across our border. You look at a ton of unaccompanied children coming across, hundreds of thousands. You look at hundreds of thousands of Americans dead because of fentanyl poisoning. You look at record high inflation. Who was in charge? And the fact that not one Democrat colleague can show up and try to get answers to that, I hope the American people see that for exactly what it is. And so my questions to you is, how do we prevent this in the future? So we know that the 25th Amendment in the 1960s, we take a look at that. Section 4 was purposefully vague to allow for some flexibility. Clearly, it either didn't work or we have some people we need to hold accountable for not stepping up. So I want to know from you all, what do we need to do? Do you think that there need to be more guardrails when it comes to Section 4? Do you think that we need some more standards to evaluate that? And if so, what should those standards be? And Professor Harrison, I'd like to start with you.
Senator, this is the question about further implementation of the Section 4 is one that has not received a lot of attention because fortunately, the country has not needed it very often. I think that this is a situation in which Congress's power is pretty limited because the Constitution, by design, put a somewhat vague but nevertheless meaningful concept, which is ability on the part of the president to act,
and it also means
in the hands
faith.
of a political process. That's the
yes,
last thing
and
I'll
good
say.
faith.
Yes.
And I don't think, obviously, we don't have that here. Mr. Ward, do you have any opinion on that?
Yes, Senator. So you said, should we hold folks accountable and should there be some reforms? The answer would be both. Yes. Right. So your colleague on the Democrat side who did attend, Senator Welch, said, hey, this is just kind of retrospective. We need to move on. I would strenuously disagree with that. The only ability to move forward is if there's an accounting of what was undertaken under the Biden staff, the Biden personnel, the bureaucrats, and the cabinet. And one thing I'll just say is this very issue was debated by Republicans in 1988 in the Miller Commission report at the University of Virginia. Republicans had the open and honest, transparent discussion about the end of the Reagan presidency and whether or not there were other guardrails that needed to be imposed on the 25th Amendment. Some discussions were about the inclusion of a mental health professional on the White House medical team, whether the Surgeon General should oversee the inclusion of medical reporting as part of Section 4, Clause 4 of the 25th Amendment. All I'll say is all of those things have been set aside. There has been no legitimate discussion in the years since about how to make the 25th Amendment more robust and how it could actually operate in the instance that the president lacked capacity.
And do we need to more clearly define what unable means in the 25th Amendment?
Oh, I think most certainly, and I think there should be, the other issue, and a number of legal academics, former colleagues of Professor Harrison, have taken this up over the years. I mean, Professor Calabresi wrote about this 20 years ago, that there needs to be a more precise definition. And there are lots of issues related to succession.
There clearly does, because, I mean, even from all of us from the outside, we're saying there is a problem. And the fact that we could get no one on the inside to actually take a look at what they already knew to exist and then be able to hold them accountable, we have to have other guardrails moving forward. And that is absolute. So we need to be talking today about what those guardrails are. I have a question. I'm running out of time. It's two things. One, senior staff. So I have been a senior staff member. You take an oath when you get to come and work in this body. You want to make sure you're doing what's best for the United States of America, for the state you serve, all of the things. Is there any way to hold senior staff accountable for either helping to cover up and or moving people to the side? Because it is clear that there are people within this administration that saw that, and they should be sitting in front of us today answering the question of why they turned their back on America, because that's exactly what they did. And so whether it's secretaries, whether it's people in the administration, or whether it is senior staff, we deserve some accountability and we deserve some answers. And then my last question will be for Mr. Spicer, legacy media. How in the world do we hold them accountable? If all of us on the outside can see it and we are saying, get to the bottom of this, but yet they refuse, what mechanisms should we put in place to be able to hold them accountable for not actually following what is clearly in front of them?
Senator, you're asking the right question. When it comes to accountability, it can't be overstated. When the Biden White House stripped 440 White House hard passes from independent journalists, they were attempting to control the narrative, to make sure that no one who wanted to hold them accountable was silenced. Part of what I think this administration has done so well is bringing in new voices, people from disparate backgrounds of all sorts, to ask the White House press secretary, to ask the senior staff, and to be able to hold them accountable. Part of it is allowing other voices in the media. We've seen what the legacy media did, but that's why I think the growth of independent media is so healthy for our democracy, and we need more of it, not less.
Thank you. And then the senior staff question, please.
Yeah, look, Senator, I mean, senior staff from the first Trump administration were brought in before committees and investigated for their participation in drafting the president's remarks on January 6th, for drafting a speech. So if there was an effort by senior staff, the Politburo, as they seem to like to have called themselves, if they were purposely distancing cabinet members, evading difficult Q&A with press, all as an attempt to conceal the president's mental acuity, yes, they should be held accountable.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Moody.
Thank you, Senator Cornyn, Senator Schmidt.